All right. So if you haven't heard already, Bassmaster just made some rule changes with forward-facing sonar for 2026, and I'm excited. I've also gotten about 7 calls and 20 texts about it. So that's definitely an interesting thing to hear. And we kind of saw this coming in the future. Wasn't exactly sure how it would all play out, but we knew something was coming. And it'll be interesting to see, does it stay just at the Elite Series? Does it filter down into the Opens and more of the grassroots things too? Because like Major League Fishing last year, they went from on the Bass Pro Tour when I fished it in 2024, do whatever you want, you're good to go, to 2025 where they were only letting you use it for one period and that sort of thing. So that definitely makes some differences in how you fish events and where you're going to be fishing. So let's go with Bassmaster. I believe it's going to be 4 events for sure will not have forward-facing sonar, how I understand it. And there's the last one, they're flipping a coin on Thursday to determine at the St. Lawrence if they're going to have it or not. So those other 8 tournaments, the first 8, I don't know if they're doing every other, if they're doing a flip a coin for each of them and figuring it out that way. Or there's something with a fan vote I saw online that on their website that's giving you options to pick which ones you want to see the events not have it. So I don't know if they're going based off of that. It's going to be interesting to see because there's a lot of things you have to consider when that's going on. One, like, so the first event I believe is on Lake Gunnersville next year. And in 2017, that was my first FLW tour event of my life. First time fishing like on a national level, and went down there in February, and it was cold. And I had an okay practice, and I found some fish doing something that was a little unique, a little goofy. I was throwing a silver buddy out in 20 foot of water, catching these fish that some were suspended. Most of them were within the bottom 3 foot, but I was staying at the time at Justin Lucas's house, and Jordan Lee was there, and we were talking, and they were asking like how I was getting ready for the tournament, how I was going to catch them, and I showed them what I was doing, and they just started chuckling and laughing, and like they knew I was a northern fella, Yankee or whatever you want to call me, doing that. But that's how I caught fish in the cold weather back home. Like when we would go Chesapeake or anywhere up in the New York, cold water fishing, take a silver buddy out. That was the deal. Now we use a steel shad, anything like that. Those blade baits just really do a good job for catching them. So that's how I approached it. But now we know February, January, December, any of those suspended fish that are out in the middle of the water column that we had zero clue about, those are the fish that play now during the wintertime because that's what they're on. They're chasing bait out there. And with our active target, forward-facing sonar, whatever you want to use or call it, that makes a big difference in how you approach an event. So I don't know what the right thing to do is. And maybe, like I said, maybe I read the print out there wrong, and maybe they said it how they're doing it, but I don't believe they did. And do you want to see them using that forward-facing technology when it's going to be good or when it's bad? So that's why I kind of go back and forth. Like I'll give you my thoughts on the whole thing here in a second, but do you want to see like Gunnersville, a Toledo Band, a Sam Rayburn, all those tournaments when it's wintertime and you just got to go out there and fish and you're throwing a trap through the grass or cranking a little bit and doing that sort of stuff? Like you're fighting to get your 5 bites in a day. Do you want to see that for the live show where the weights are going to be down a little bit? Or do you want to see where they go out there and just absolutely smash these fish that are suspended that we would have never caught before? For me personally, I'd rather go and throw the trap and get my 5 bites in a day and go home. And I feel like that's just me personally being selfish. I'm a better fisherman that way. I know that for a fact. I grew up fishing off the bank, fishing in creeks, going on friends' boats when they would take me down to the Chesapeake Bay. And we fished shallow. That's what we did. And my first boat, was an 18-foot Skeeter when I was a sophomore in college. I had bought it. And that used boat had these little eagle calls. They were about this big. I would say they're 4 inches maybe. And it told you water temperature, told you depth. It would show fish on it occasionally, but it was lying. Like I promise you, I never caught a fish off that graph. And that was just how I learned. So I was throwing a chatterbait. A chatterbait is my favorite lure to throw, and I'm throwing a trap, like any of that stuff up shallow. That's what I learned to do to cover water. Kind of at the time, I was in college from 2008 to 12. So like that was during Van Dan's dominance of winning Angler of the Years before and after that. And power fishing was the deal. Like that's what we wanted to do. And it's changed the game so much with the forward facing sonar. Now that everybody can see the fish out there. And I can't say like it hasn't changed how I fish because I know it has. 2020 was the first year I ever had it. And I was up on Lake Ontario. I fish up there a lot. My wife and I were on a fun fishing trip. I think it was over 4th of July, if I remember right. And we went out. There's one rocky area that we always catch them on. So we pull up there and we start catching them right away. And I start looking around with that forward and I'm like, oh, there's a school. It's 8:30. I don't remember the number, but it was a lot. And we start throwing at them and catching them. And then we stopped looking at them. We were just casting like we would. We weren't targeting specific fish, but we knew where that school was. And then they stopped biting. Well, I started looking around with that thing. I'm like, oh, they're gone. I don't know where they went. So I started going down the edge, looking down that break, maybe 150 yards down the way, find that group again. I start throwing into it, bang, bang, bang. This fish had never seen forward-facing sonar at that point in their life. And they were very willing to eat. It was a lot of fun. I promise you that. But as I learned from it, drop shots, what we threw originally into them. Then we started throwing the minnow in there and then like a Nico rig or a wacky rig. And I've utilized it all over the country. It's helped me catch fish. Is it my favorite way to fish? Not necessarily. It's fun to do every once in a while. You learn a ton with that. You can't take that away from it. And that's what's really progressed everybody and all the younger fishing generation coming up out of college right now, that they are dominant, they're good, and they know what they're doing. And they've learned way more than I probably did in 15 years of fishing before having forward-facing sonar. So it's like a balancing act. Like, do I think all of a sudden Trey McKinney's not going to catch him? Absolutely not. That kid's a freaking hammer. He's so good. You could take that thing away, and they're going to for half the events next year, it sounds like, where he's going to still go out there and just wail on them. And he's just that good of a fisherman. There's people that are just instinctually good at catching them, and I have no doubt he's going to be right up there in the top for Angler of the Year anyway. I don't think that's going to change it or make a difference. Maybe it will. Put in the comments. Do you think it's going to make a difference? I don't. I think overall it will. I think there's still some of those guys maybe that came in and maybe they weren't quite ready for it. They're right out of college, or maybe even ever went to college, and they just started fishing right away, and they're really good at live scoping. Maybe they don't know that other parts of their fishing game yet. They haven't learned to cover water, power fish, and just get out there and really use your instincts to catch them. But I also don't think they're incapable of it. I think they're going to get that figured out, really kind of dial it in, and maybe a couple of them, they work their way through the Elite Series and they stay on it, and maybe it's tougher for a year or two, and then all of a sudden they're back at the top. There's going to be some that go away, I'm sure, but that's just anything. Like, there's only 100 spots roughly on the tour, so you can't have everybody staying there. It's the same thing with the Bass Pro Tour in 24. When I fished it, I ended up having some bad circumstances where they were cutting the field from 80 to 65 to 50, so I had some things working against me anyway. But I also am not at the level of a scoper that those guys are, which when you're fishing to catch all you can, that thing matters 10 times more than fishing in the 5-fish format. So I think that's going to balance a lot more things out as well. I don't know. I go back and forth. I think it's a good thing. I don't know if I've said this yet or not, but like I've thought about it a lot, and I think it's going to be good for the overall sport, because it's going to still show the technology that's out there and what we have and how we're catching them with it for certain events. And then I think there's also going to be events where we're going to be able to go and I'm going to throw a chatterbait all day and not pick up another lure. I'll have 6 chatterbaits with Dobbin 736 out there. Rods is lined up. My favorite chatterbait rod, different colors, different weights, different blades, and I'm going to pick that grass apart, and I'm going to catch my 5 biggest fish I can with it. So it's going to be interesting. Let me know what you think. Put them in the comments below. Like I said, I really am kind of curious. I know people have big opinions and hate forward-facing sonar, but there's enough guys out there now using it on their boats that I know it's not maybe it's the majority that don't like it, but it's not the majority that don't have it that are serious bass anglers at this point. most guys have it if you're serious about it. Whether you're good at it or not, that's another discussion, but it changes how we fish. So we'll see what happens in the future. Thanks for listening. I will talk to you again soon. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. That really helps a lot. I'm trying to build this thing up, and if there's any video ideas you have, send them over. Instagram, Facebook, on this comments below, any of that works. So, all right, have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.